Owing to him, I successively lost 3 children and encountered difficulties in giving birth. However, unbeknownst to me, he found a woman outside and she bore him a child. When I was out of contact due to a car accident, he accompanied that woman to welcome a new life. Thus, I bestowed a significant gift upon him at the full moon banquet of his child. His paramour was enraged, yet he clasped me tightly, his eyes aflame. "Do not leave me again." I smiled. "Gu Yanlin, I am dying and this time you cannot detain me." 1. In the advanced stage of gastric cancer, I was unable to slumber at night on account of the pain. I was perusing the moments on my mobile phone and inadvertently espied a photograph of a baby posted by my mother-in-law, accompanied by the caption, "My dear grandson has finally arrived, weighing 7 pounds and 6 ounces, and both mother and child are in good health." The child's countenance bore some semblance to Gu Yanlin, and he had finally achieved his aspiration of becoming a father. In the photograph, he cradled the child, his head bowed, his gaze fixated solely upon that infant. I wonder if he would recollect that I once carried his child. Were I alive, I should have resembled him closely. Beneath this moment's post, there were copious blessings and likes, as if everyone had forgotten that I am Gu Yanlin's wife. A friend messaged me that Gu Yanlin was going to host a grand banquet for his lover's child. At that time, Gu Yanlin's lover Luo Xiao would attend in his company. Luo Xiao had given birth to a son, and she was eager to flaunt it, presumably desiring to seize this opportunity to affirm her status as the mistress. However, I had not yet divorced Gu Yanlin. They all presumed me dead, and thus their brazenness seemed natural. Regrettably, I still clung to a breath of life, and I would not permit them to obtain what they coveted. I intended to present a substantial gift at the child's full moon banquet. 2. Gu Yanlin must truly cherish this child. The full moon banquet was a lively affair, and everyone with even a modicum of acquaintance was invited, as if he were apprehensive that others might not be aware that he had a son. I stood upstairs observing him attired resplendently, mingling with the crowd and socializing with effortless grace, a trifle dazed. It had been merely half a year since our last encounter, yet it constituted but 1/20th of the time we had known each other. How could he have become so alien? My mother-in-law joyfully held her grandson and clutched Luo Zhao's hand, comporting herself like the mistress. Gu Yanlin seemed to have acquiesced to everything. What a scoundrel! Half a year ago, he had sworn that he merely desired a child and would never have any entanglement with Luo Xiao. I had been out of touch for only half a year, and he had promptly turned around and chosen this woman who had nearly slain me. I advanced step by step. Every inch of the scars on my body and every vestige of the terror of being entrapped in the car and facing death steeled my resolve. Clad in a scarlet dress, I stood out conspicuously in the crowd. I had specifically commissioned someone to create a fashionable appearance for me, and it had indeed proven useful. Everyone who discerned my identity wore a most remarkable expression, whispering sotto voce, betraying the excitement of being spectators. Luo Xiao and my mother-in-law were dumbfounded and panic-stricken. Who invited her here? Security. Where is the security? It is my husband's son's full moon banquet. As the legal wife, how could I not attend? I smiled. Do not panic. I am not here to disrupt your union today. I am here to partake. I waved my hand, and a troupe of dragon and lion dancers burst in. In an instant, it was a scene of great jubilation, with red banners fluttering and gongs and drums resounding. The 2 lion heads somersaulted onto the stage and unfurled a banner. The large golden characters thereon were of sufficient magnitude for all present to perceive clearly. Nanny Luo Xiao loves my husband deeply and bore a son despite her status. As the legal wife, I have come here today to propose marriage and take a concubine. I overheard someone unable to suppress a chuckle. Luo Xiao on the stage blushed crimson, tears welling up in her eyes, and she tugged pitifully at Gu Yanlin's garments. Husband, say something. My mother-in-law rushed over directly. You wretched slut, what are you plotting? You are unable to bear a child, and yet you seek to harm our family. Weren't you dead? Why have you returned? Why do you not perish outside? I took a step back and adroitly evaded her slap. As long as I still draw breath, I will not allow you to achieve your aims. Before the situation could devolve into further chaos, Gu Yanlin strode over, intercepted his mother's assault and seized me. He appeared somewhat agitated, yet not angry. He even seemed a trifle elated. I knew you would come. You have finally made an appearance. He clutched my wrist with such force that it pained. I have caught you. Do not even entertain the thought of leaving me again. I sneered. You are addicted to theatrics. It is as if I have wronged you. To whom are you feigning this affectionate display? The banquet concluded in a hasty and disorderly manner. Gu Yanlin was like a madman. He hauled me away in public, utterly disregarding his precious son and his paramour. Luo Zhao's visage was contorted with fury. She continued to weep and shriek Gu Yanlin's name, chasing after us. In the end, she was engulfed by the car exhaust. 3. The situation had taken a turn for the worse. Gu Yanlin had incarcerated me. The villa in the suburbs, when overly silent, assumed a gloomy air. Moreover, Gu Yanlin had dismissed all the nannies in the household, leaving only the 2 of us. He regarded me once more with such a lugubrious gaze that it sent a chill down my spine. Gu Yanlin, so many people witnessed you abduct me. If I were to perish here, you would not escape culpability. Why did you leave me? Do you not find this question ludicrous? Given what you have done, what right have you to ask me the reason? My paramour has entered the house. He slapped me across the face and inquired with a smile why I had not accepted it. Who is that man? He asked me perplexed. What man? Who is the man who assisted you in feigning your death in the car accident to extricate you from this situation? His clenched fists were faintly tinged blue with veins, betraying the great wrath he was suppressing. It transpired that my narrow escape from death was, in his eyes, actually a ruse of feigned death. Who informed you that I feigned my death? Your paramour? You believed her? Why? Because I overheard your conversation with that man, and you implored him to take you away. Gu Yanlin grasped me. Jiangwan, you are my wife. I slapped him directly. You are cognizant that I am your wife, and yet what have you done? You fathered a child with another woman and brought her into our home. At that time, why did you not consider that I am your wife? I do not love her at all. I did it to compel you to return. Only by doing so would you come back. Yes, I have returned, and I wish to divorce you. No, no. Gu Yanlin clasped me more tightly. You cannot leave me. I was unable to repel him. He approached like a dog and continued to kiss me. You are mine, and you can only be mine. I truly lacked strength and was exhausted after a few feeble struggles. Wanwan, why have you lost so much weight? The warmth of his breath was upon my neck. We had once been so intimate, yet now even the slightest contact felt like torture. I stiffened and ceased moving, and he likewise halted. I knew why, for I bore scars of varying sizes all over my body, commencing from my collarbone. Burns and scratches had left a crisscross pattern of pink marks on my formerly pristine white skin, allowing him as a spectator to envisage the agony I had endured at that time. Now, do you still suspect that I feigned my death? I was not sparing in my display. I delighted in beholding the shock and pain in his eyes at that moment, although it was but a minuscule fraction of what I had suffered. Gu Yanlin, these are all gifts from your paramour. If I had not survived, how could she have been vindicated? I laughed and pried open his fingers one by one. You are so astute. Cannot you fathom it? Or are you unwilling to admit it? For Gu Yanlin departed with a sullen countenance. I collapsed, clutching my abdomen, and hastily retrieved painkillers from my bag to ingest. 120 pills, 3 per day, constituted the countdown of my life. However, it sufficient for me to drag them all to perdition. I believe Gu Yanlin still harbors some affection for me, albeit this love is exceedingly paltry. But given his character, he will assuredly investigate the matter thoroughly. When he discovers that it was Luo Xiao who assisted me in escaping half a year ago, and contrived a car accident with the intention of slaying me, I fear Luo Xiao's halcyon days will come to an end. Gu Yanlin did not make an appearance until the following day. At that time I was in a semi-conscious state due to the medication I had taken. His embrace was frigid and roused me. Even the kiss upon my face was cold. I felt ill at ease and struggled to push him away. His mood was amiss. He should have unearthed the truth. I am sorry, Wanwan, I am truly sorry. He choked back tears, his eyes aflame. This was the first time I had witnessed Gu Yanlin weep. I smiled and gently wiped away his tears. It is of no great consequence. I nearly perished. I languished in the ICU of the hospital for half a month. I received 7 critical illness notices. 10% of my body was burned. I permitted him to behold the injuries on my body and continued to provoke him. Gu Yanlin, you almost lost sight of me. Perhaps I should have died half a year ago, so that you could joyfully reunite with your child. He was suddenly stricken with terror and clasped me more tightly, his voice hoarse. No, you are forbidden to utter such words. You cannot die, you must not die. I do not desire a family reunion. I merely want you. She has wronged you, and I want her to die. He patted my back and spoke more vehemently. She merits death. Gu Yanlin had always been decisive and resolute, and thus I was reassured when he uttered those words. But how could it be Luo Xiao who deserved to die? That night, he insisted on holding me as we slept. He professed a desire to commence anew and refrained from mentioning the child, but I was compelled to inquire. Gu Yanlin, do you still recall our child? His body stiffened momentarily, and he hugged me tightly and said, Wanwan, do not dwell on it any further. But you may forget, yet I cannot. The first child was born during our junior year of college. Everything was precipitate and unexpected. I was at a loss, clutching the examination report. He hugged me tightly and said, do not be afraid. We were still students and ill-equipped to cope with the arrival of a new life, and thus we had no choice but to relinquish it. However, I had not anticipated that, on account of this decision, I might never be able to bear a child of my own. Upon graduating from college, he proposed to me. In the first year of our marriage, I became pregnant. In less than 2 months, the baby was lost. This was the second child of Gu Yanlin and me. We underwent a comprehensive examination and discovered that I have Rh-negative blood. After the first child, antibodies would be produced. If I were to conceive again, there was a high probability that the child would perish in the womb due to hemolysis. A few years later, we welcomed the third baby. After learning that I was pregnant, I was exceedingly cautious and prayed day and night. The child finally surmounted the 3-month perilous period. He and I were overjoyed. We could finally have a tangible manifestation of our love. Our little darling must surely be an adorable little angel. Gu Yanlin accompanied me to the maternity and baby store to select a plethora of charming clothes and baby toys. We decorated the nursery together. I gently rocked the cradle and asked him, baby is so well behaved. Is it a little girl? Yes, our sensible little cotton-padded jacket. He leaned against my lower abdomen and said with great tenderness, baby, mommy and daddy love you very much. You must come to us safely. However, a few nights later, I awoke in excruciating abdominal pain, with a sanguineous stain beneath me. The miracle did not occur, and I was still unable to retain her. 6. That chaotic night was suffused with blood and pain. I had no inclination to recollect it. I merely regarded the flesh and blood that had forsaken me and some words I had overheard in my befuddled state of consciousness as a nightmare, until the woman arrived at my doorstep with a swollen belly. Sister, I am aware that you are unable to bear children. I vow that every child I bear for Brother Yanlin will have only you as its mother. I do not wish to disrupt your relationship with Brother Yanlin, but you have never given birth to a child and do not comprehend my maternal sentiments. I have come here merely to implore you to treat my child kindly. Brother Yanlin truly loves you. When he is with me, he calls you by your name. Her hand caressed her protruding belly, like an inflated balloon, yet her countenance was pointed, and her eyes regarded me with a plaintive, tearful expression. My hands trembled, and the nightmarish scene, replete with the stench of blood, seemed to enshroud me once more, and the voice reverberating in my ears gradually distorted. I am sorry, Miss Lin, we exerted our utmost efforts. It is a little girl, and there is no heartbeat. Son, this woman is utterly incapable of bearing children. She has slain 3 children in our family. It is a heinous sin. You simply refuse to heed my counsel and insist on marrying her. You are a jinx. If you do not divorce her, go out and sire a child. Our family cannot be extinguished in her hands. I had believed it to be an auditory hallucination within a nightmare, yet it turned out to be a reality that I had been deceiving myself and dared not confront. My husband, on countless nights when I had been grief-stricken due to the premature demise of my children, had a beautiful woman ensconced in a golden abode, and he had fathered a child with another woman. And what was I, his wife? A tool that had been discarded because she was unable to bear him a child? The shriek of the woman in my ear was piercingly shrill. She collapsed onto the ground, beholding my hands smeared with blood and fragments of glass, her countenance awash with terror. Sister, desist from this. The child is innocent. He is the progeny of Brother Yanlin. You are cognizant of how fervently he has yearned for a child of his own. Sister, I implore you. If you are incensed, direct your ire at me. Do not harm the child. I am utterly indifferent to status. I merely aspire to bestow upon him a child of his lineage. The countenance that bore some semblance to mine rendered me even more repulsed. I rose to my feet and bellowed, "Cease your prattling. Begone from this place." I was unwaveringly certain that I had not laid a finger on her. However, when my mother-in-law burst in, she clutched her stomach and screeched for mercy. My mother-in-law slapped me across the face, causing my head to resound with a din, and she heaped invectives upon me. You are an accursed jinx, incapable of bearing a child, yet you dare to perpetrate such an act upon her? You have injured my grandson. I shall beat you to within an inch of your life. The mother-in-law positioned herself before the woman like a hen shielding her chicks, glaring at me malevolently. I was propelled back several paces, regarding the chaos on the ground, dazed and disgusted. Unwilling to tarry in this abode for a single moment longer, I abandoned all and fled that so-called home. But Gu Yanlin is a possessive individual. He is loath to relinquish his hold and has spurned the notion of divorce. He fails even to comprehend me. Yuanyuan, what vexes you? It is merely a child. He shall address you as mother once he is born. You shall no longer endure the travails of childbirth, and he will bear a resemblance to you in the future. It shall not impinge upon us in the slightest. He fails to fathom why I am so agitated, just as I am unable to apprehend why he can treat this matter with such levity. When I broached the subject of divorce for the second time, his visage contorted into a most unsightly mien. He forcefully hoisted me up and declared, "I cannot divorce you. Cease this commotion and return home." My perseverance failed to rouse him to his senses, and thus he incarcerated me. In truth, when Luo Xiao presented herself at my abode, I had probably surmised that she harbored malicious intentions. However, at that time I was simply desirous of severing ties with Gu Yanlin. Consequently, I tumbled into the snare and narrowly escaped death in that meticulously contrived car accident. I had not anticipated Luo Xiao's arrival at my domicile. Her customary artifice was to feign a pitiable mien. However, as far as I am aware, Gu Yanlin is not beguiled by it, and neither am I. Sister, it was truly a misunderstanding at the outset. I earnestly desired to assist you. I am ignorant of how the car came to be involved in an accident. Presently, Brother Yanlin has misconstrued me, and is amassing evidence to apprehend my brother. My turn shall soon arrive. She clasped my legs and wept bitterly. I cannot be consigned to jail. If I am incarcerated, what shall become of the child bereft of a mother? I pinched her chin, compelling her to look upward, and smiled sardonically. Did you not asseverate that the child would have only me as a mother? What manner of mother are you? She regarded me blankly, tears still streaking her countenance. But I carried him in my womb for 10 months. So what? Does Gu Yanlin give a fig? She trembled faintly and sobbed. I am the child's mother. You cannot treat me thus. I extracted the recorder and played an audio clip. It was the recording of the altercation between Gu Yanlin and me when I initially learned of Luo Xiao's pregnancy. He averred, Luo Xiao shall not undermine your position. She is not. He further stated, Wanwan, you alone shall be my wife. As for her, I merely desire her to bear a child. Wanwan, you ought to understand that in order to wrest the rights of the company from my father and that illegitimate child, I must have an heir. Luo Xiao should have long been cognizant of her role. However, she must have been mortified to hear Gu Yanlin's words articulated with such candor. I beheld her visage paling, withdrew my leg and delivered a kick. I derided her. You ought not to be so deluded. Even if I were to slay you here this day, Gu Yanlin would not so much as furrow his brow on your account, for from the very commencement to the very end, Gu Yanlin has never regarded you with any degree of seriousness. You are deliberately endeavoring to kill me, but you are oblivious to the fact that you shall not have the opportunity if I perish. No, it is you. You are inciting him. She lunged forward and seized me, leaving a sanguinary mark upon my arm. I impatiently slapped her. Awaken from your reverie, will you? Contemplate the fate of your brother, and you shall naturally discern how wretchedly you shall meet your end. I bared the scars upon my body, and she recoiled in trepidation. Well, do not be afraid, for ere long they shall all manifest upon you. Such was the promise Gu Yanlin made to me. Ah, begone from here. You are deranged, a lunatic. Luo Xiao was so petrified that she scurried away in a most ungainly manner. I received word that very night that Luo Xiao had absconded with the child. Xiaoming messaged me. The Gu family is in a state of turmoil. The police have been summoned, and a substantial reward is being offered for the child's whereabouts. Wow, 3 million. It is truly enviable. What did you impart to her that she would resort to such an extreme measure? Luo Xiao was cognizant that she could derive no benefit from Gu Yanlin and thus elected to take a gamble. She intends to abscond with the child and make a fortune. Xiaoming chuckled and said, I am unaware of the amount of the reward. The Gu family is already amassing funds. However, I am uncertain if Luo Xiao shall live to see it. The Gu family has never tolerated a thorn in its side. Luo Xiao dared to purloin the child, leaving herself no quarter. Gu Yanlin must be exceedingly occupied. As expected, he did not make an appearance that night, and I was left to my own devices, absolved of the necessity to dissemble in his presence. I can palpably sense the deterioration of my physical condition these days. There is scant time remaining for me to conclude matters with him. He returned at noon the following day, his eyes suffused with bloodshot veins, his appearance haggard. He did not even divest himself of his attire and simply enfolded me in his embrace. What ails you? Remain still. Permit me to hold you. His voice was somewhat hoarse. Luo Xiao absconded with the child, and we scoured the night through in search of the child before we located him. Oh, no wonder you did not come yesterday. He tightened his embrace and said, Wan, do you desire my company? I shall attend to you daily hereafter and shall never be remiss. Very well. I caressed his visage, regarding the glimmer in his eyes as he beheld me and smiling gently. He drew near and bestowed a kiss upon my cheek. Why have you lost so much weight? He encircled my waist with his arm and inquired with a furrowed brow. I know not. I have always yearned to shed pounds, yet now I am unable to gain weight. The soup stewed by the nanny, you ought to consume more. You must not lose any more weight. Yes. I nodded obediently. May I venture out for a stroll? It is of no great consequence if you perpetually confine me here. He did not respond. I knew he was even reluctant to furnish me with a mobile phone. He dreaded that I would vanish once more. But Gu Yanlin, I shall truly disappear ere long. How can you impede me? At that juncture will you be heartbroken? I am somewhat anticipatory of it. Luo Xiao truly wept this time. She was recumbent upon the hospital bed, her body beset with wounds, hovering on the brink of death. When Luo Xiao absconded with the money, she was pursued by vehicles and intercepted. Somehow, she was involved in an accident and sustained a grievous car accident. I was once in a similar state and now she is. Despite this, when Luo Xiao espied me, her eyes suddenly blazed with a fierce glimmer. She was possessed of considerable vim. Wan, fear not. She cannot harm you. Gu Yanlin embraced me, apprehensive that I would be intimidated by such sanguinary sights, and ceaselessly consoled me. But I was not afraid. Initially, I was besmirched with wounds and blood, and my appearance was scarcely better than hers. What was there to fear? I was merely concerned that she was not suffering enough. Luo Xiao, your brother has confessed and divulged all the stratagems between you, including the instigation of car accidents, intentional homicide, kidnapping and extortion, multiple felonies. Once you recuperate from your injuries, you shall be remanded to the police station. Luo Xiao howled like a cur, her voice raspy. You are inhumane, malevolent. Gu Yanlin, I am the mother of your son. If he were aware of how you have treated me, he would detest you. Have no concerns. He shall never be cognizant of your existence. Gu Yanlin regarded her frenzy with equanimity, his composure verging on the cruel. I beseech you, release me. I was in error. I truly did not mean it. I do not wish to be incarcerated. I am but 24 years of age. Blood and tears commingled, her visage truly piteous. I implore you, let me go, sister. Silence. I have no sister such as you. I delivered a light kick to her, regarding her askance as if she were excrement. When you were plotting my demise, did you ever envisage this day? She was trembling with increasing intensity, weeping in a most unseemly manner, utterly heedless of her appearance. I was in error. I was instigated by another. I was also acting on behalf of the child. I desired to remain with the child and was momentarily befuddled. You have returned safely now. Let me go, will you? Mr. Gu, brother Yanlin, I bore a child for you after all. A day of marriage begets 100 days of grace. You. Before she could complete her utterance, Gu Yanlin dispatched her with a kick, rendering her speechless. It was truly idiotic and risible. A day of marriage begets 100 days of grace. She sought to touch a raw nerve, but that was also the very point that Gu Yanlin was most loath to confront, especially in my presence. She was fanning the flames and courting death. Gu Yanlin clasped me in his arms and tenderly stroked my back. I surmised that he must be pondering why I have metamorphosed from a timorous and feeble woman into such a frigid one since my return. However, he refrained from inquiring and simply held me in silence. Wan, she is deceased. Let us commence anew and revert to the past, shall we? Very well. I cradled his face and smiled gently. Gu Yanlin, you once wove a beautiful dream for me and then shattered it. Thus, now it is my turn to fabricate a dream for you, and utilize the remainder of my time to render it indelible for the remainder of your days. We have cohabited for such an extended period that I am intimately acquainted with his predilections. In the early morn, I bestow upon him a gentle good morning kiss. He suffers from a delicate stomach and thus must partake of pumpkin millet porridge in the morning, which is mildly sweet. As I was tying his tie for him, he encircled my waist with his arm, regarding me with such tenderness, awaiting my tiptoe kiss and murmuring, "Return early." In the evening, he is greeted by a sumptuous repast. Occasionally, when he returns early, he will trail after me into the kitchen to assist, enfolding my waist like an affectionate child. "When you have finally returned, what preposterous remarks are you uttering? I have been back for several days. When I am driving back, I am content merely at the thought of you awaiting me at home. With you I desire naught else." I merely smiled and remained silent. "Liar, even with me you still dallied with Luo Xiao outside and fathered a child. 1-1, do you not relish spicy fare the most? Why are the dishes you prepare so bland of late?" He served me some food, and I pressed my aching stomach and forced a smile. "My stomach is ailing, and I am presently unable to consume spicy food." "Ailing stomach? How could that be?" "It is simply that I have ingested an excessive amount of medicine over the past 6 months, and it is a sequela." He knitted his brow and gently clasped my hand. "I shall procure a doctor to conduct a physical examination for you on the morrow." "No, it is not yet time to apprise him of my condition." "What is amiss?" I shook off his hand. "I abhor hospitals and doctors. I have no desire to visit the hospital any further. I have had my fill of that over the past 6 months. "Very well, no. He temporarily abandoned this plan, but I was somewhat apprehensive that I could not maintain the secrecy for long. My physical condition was progressively enfeebling, and the pain was enduring for increasingly protracted periods. Even after taking medicine it still pained. I lay in bed, drenched in perspiration. I was in such agony. I yearned for death. There was no sumptuous repast awaiting Gu Yanlin this day, and I was in such excruciating pain that I was unable to rise. After I regained some semblance of composure, I was utterly depleted. I changed my attire and took a shower. I appeared exceptionally pallid in the mirror, and even foundation and rouge could not salvage my complexion. Calculating the time, there remained less than a month. I forgot to prepare a meal for you whilst engrossed in the movie. Hence, why don't we dine out? It is of no consequence. Simply cook some noodles and partake of something unpretentious." He still did not wish for me to venture out and endeavored to confine me within his realm. He was also quite content to consume the noodles with a clear broth, yet my stomach was in a state of discomfort. After scarcely ingesting a few morsels, I detected a saline and piscine taste in my mouth. I huddled in the bathroom and incessantly retched, and naught but blood and bile emerged. Gu Yanlin anxiously rapped on the door, and when he entered, I had already expunged all traces. "What ails you? Are you experiencing malaise?" He was so perturbed that his eyes reddened. "I feel a trifle nauseous. I have a gastric affliction. I shall consume no more." He reclined beside me on the bed, placing his large hands upon my abdomen and gently massaging it for me. "Do you feel somewhat ameliorated now?" "Yes." Each time I felt unwell during my menstrual cycle, he would embrace me thus and keep my belly warm. At that time, I truly felt that I was the most felicitous person in the world. 1-1, let us summon a physician to examine us. We need not visit the hospital, merely have the doctor come to our abode. No, Gu Yanlin is an obstinate individual. Although I firmly declined, the doctor still arrived at my residence the following day. I had a tantrum with him, yet ultimately acquiesced to the examination. There was no equipment and I refused to have my blood drawn. I presumed that nothing untoward should be detected. The doctor still recommended that I proceed to the hospital for a comprehensive examination. The doctor's demeanor exacerbated Gu Yanlin's unease. He absented himself from work and adamantly remained at home with me. I could only surreptitiously ingest the medicine whilst he was engaged in cooking, yet he still seemed suspicious. I continuously ruminated on how Gu Yanlin would feel upon learning the news until he retrieved the medicine from my bag with inflamed eyes and inquired of me, "What is this?" "Gastric medicine." I endeavored to reclaim it, yet he refused. "It is not for you. You have deceived me, have you not? How is this possible? How could this be? How could you contract this ailment?" He grasped my hand and frantically sought to verify it. "You have deceived me, have you not? Are you still incensed with me? However, you cannot deceive me in this manner. This is incorrect. This is improper." This time, he heeded no explanation and directly conveyed me to the hospital, forcibly compelling the doctor to examine me. I remained composed throughout, observing him negotiate with the doctor, beholding his tremulous hands as he clutched the report, and admiring how his equanimity was gradually shattered and how he gradually descended into despair. Impossible, impossible. He rent the report asunder and transported me from one hospital to another in succession, yet all he obtained was a result that rendered him even more devastated. Sufficient. I seized his hand as he attempted to dial the phone. "Seek no further. The outcome shall be identical." "No. In truth, I became cognizant of it half a year ago." I cradled his cheek, compelling him to look up at me and said with a smile, "On the day when Luo Xiao visited me with a swollen belly." "Why?" "Because I had no inclination to disclose it to you." I bestowed upon him the gentle smile he adored. "Initially, I dreaded that you would be aggrieved, but when I learned of the existence of that child, I feared that you would not be. I do not wish to afford you time to acclimate to the advent of death. It would be heartrending if it were to occur abruptly. There remain but 20 days. It is lamentable that I still permitted you to become aware." I desired him to open his eyes and behold that the lover who was still warm in his embrace yesterday had suddenly transmogrified into a cadaver. I wanted him to witness the once vibrant home abruptly turn frigid, and the place where someone awaited daily suddenly become vacant. Just as I was suddenly assailed by the dire tidings, his expression gradually ossified, as if he were deeply wounded and unable to credit that I would utter such a callous remark. 1-1 You detest me, do you not?" I sighed. "Gu Yanlin, let us divorce." "No, no." He clasped me so tightly that I could scarcely breathe. Let us recover, and I shall be with you. You may hate me, assail me, and reproach me, or treat me as you tormented Luo Xiao. As long as you are alive, you must endure. Wanwan. He appeared helpless and anguished. Wanwan, why? Why must it be thus? I have never betrayed you. I solely love you, Wanwan. Gu Yanlin, you ought to be aware that love brooks no impurity. You elected to have that child and forsook me. No, Wanwan, that child is a test tube infant. I have not laid a finger on her. I solely love you. Gu Yanlin anxiously expounded, yet I laughed. Gu Yanlin, you are such a crafty scoundrel. Merely because it is a test tube baby, it is not deemed betrayal? I am compelled to accept your child with another woman? Why? You act thus not for my sake but to secure an escape route for yourself, an excuse such that I am obliged to forgive you. You are even more despicable than I had imagined. I am a reprobate, Wanwan. It matters not if you do not pardon me, but do not leave me. Do not depart. Gu Yanlin seemed incapable of assimilating the news that I was dying, and still tenaciously detained me by his side. Wanwan, I have prepared liquid sustenance. The doctor averred that you must consume it, otherwise you shall lack the strength. No, I did not glance at him. Divorce, Gu Yanlin. I do not wish to perish as your wife. The soup spilled, and his hands were scalded crimson. He sat there in a stupor, as if bereft of consciousness. Wanwan, you are my wife eternally. He kissed my hand and murmured, do not even entertain the thought of leaving me. I awoke on multiple occasions during the night, predominantly due to the pain. Gu Yanlin, a light sleeper, would rouse immediately after me. Each time he beheld me vomiting blood, his countenance was most unsightly. The following day, I espied several additional sanguinary stains on his arm. Gu Yanlin, he was engaging in self-harm. My departure was a torment for him. As conceited as he is, he has always traversed a smooth path and achieved everything he has desired. However, there are moments when he is impotent, beholding me deteriorate day by day before his very eyes. When there remained but 10 days' worth of medicine, Gu Yanlin's mother presented herself at the door. You are an accursed jinx. You are on the verge of death yourself. Why are you ensnaring my son? She endeavored to strike me, yet Gu Yanlin was present, and thus she could not approach me. Gu Yanlin, you are a traitor. How do you treat your mother? You implored the master to take your life in exchange for this wretched wench. Have you ever contemplated what shall befall your mother? What shall become of your infant son, who is but a few months old? You have been vigilantly guarding this short-lived specter every day. Have you ever visited your son? Mother, refrain from speaking thus of her. Gu Yanlin bellowed, she is not. She shall fare well. She shall enjoy a long life. 100 years. Gu Yanlin had also learned to deceive himself. He knew that I would not survive. Did he believe that burning incense and praying to Buddha could salvage my life? How could this be possible, Gu Yanlin? I do not desire your life. I merely wish to sever all ties with you completely. Gu Yanlin vigilantly guarded the house, permitting no one to enter save the doctor and the driver who delivered the victuals daily. And my physical form was finally shattered, and I was unable to even rise. What is more agonizing than death is the inability to tend to one's own needs. My mind remained lucid, and I could perceive my hands and feet swelling and assuming unsightly hues. I could witness my limbs gradually deteriorating and awaiting death. I was incapable of using the lavatory and had to rely on a urine bag. Gu Yanlin attended to me daily without a murmur of complaint, yet he bore more injuries. However, the liquid sustenance he prepared was so unpalatable that I could not consume it at all. I am dying. I clutched Gu Yanlin and gasped for an extended period before I could utter a complete sentence. Whilst I can still speak, Gu Yanlin, divorce. I yearn for death. I can endure no longer. Divorce and release me, that I may depart with a tranquil heart. His eyes gradually reddened, and he tightly squeezed my hand. Although I had no inclination to look at him, I still sensed his pained gaze upon me. I had never doubted his love for me in the past, yet now all this was rendered meaningless. Recalling the sleepless night when I learned of the child's existence, I espied his vehicle parked downstairs. The solitary figure standing in the wind, smoking a cigarette, overlapped with the youth who had once stood downstairs and gazed upward. I had almost forgotten how ardently I had loved him. When I first encountered him, it was during my freshman year. I caught a fleeting glimpse of him from the teaching building and was smitten at first sight. Meeting him, falling in love with him, and getting to know him all seemed like a fairy tale. We had constructed snowmen together on the snow-covered playground, beheld the sunrise in unison on the secluded mountaintop, and kissed beneath the romantic fireworks. I had truly believed that I would be with him for the remainder of my days. However, all this was rent asunder when he resolved to have a child with another woman. Thus here I must bid adieu, Gu Yanlin. After one night, I lacked even the strength to speak, and Gu Yanlin conveyed me to the hospital. My body was replete with tubes, and the doctors and nurses encircled me throughout the day. Yet death was too facile. Regardless of the number of people, it was to no avail. Every minute and every second I was in agony. I regarded Gu Yanlin, and with the last vestige of strength I possessed, I pinched his hand. He had lost so much weight that there was scarcely any flesh on his hands. After observing me mouth the word divorce, Gu Yanlin finally collapsed in despair. Wanwan, do not treat me thus, Wanwan. I endured from morn till dusk, and on several occasions, I believed that I was on the brink of death. However, when I opened my eyes, I beheld the white coat once more. The patient is in profound pain, and the family ought to consider whether to continue the treatment. There is no point in attempting to resuscitate him now. That night, Gu Yanlin clasped my hand and sat for an extended period. He recounted numerous events from the past and professed his love for me innumerable times. As dawn was nigh, the lawyer arrived. He extracted the divorce agreement and affixed his signature in my presence. I lacked the strength, and thus he grasped my hand and inscribed my name for me. Wanwan, you may rest assured. He inclined his head and kissed my forehead, and tears cascaded onto my cheeks. Wanwan, you are liberated. Gu Yanlin, he actually wept. In 7 years, this was the first time I beheld the haughty Gu Yanlin in tears. Regrettably, I was in such agony that I could not sense whether his tears were warm. I took the divorce agreement, gradually smiled, and exhaled a sigh of relief. Finally, I need no longer suffer. Mother-in-law's perspective. 1 month after Zhongwan's demise, I beheld my son. He was so emaciated that he was scarcely recognizable and appeared decadent. He did not attend class, spurned food, and numbed himself with alcohol throughout the day. He even slumbered with the woman's urn in his embrace and carried it with him wherever he went, as if it were a precious treasure. I truly could not fathom why he could not relinquish that woman and even refused to regard his own son, who wept before him. I discerned hatred in his eyes. He refused to see me and expelled me. Begone all of you. None can wrest her from me. He pushed me, gently stroking the urn in his arms and muttering to himself, Fear not, Wanwan. Fear not. No one shall harm you again. In his eyes, I had also become the slayer of Zhongwan. Oh, what a sin. I took my children to implore him daily. She has been deceased for an extended period. What is the point of you clutching this urn? I regarded the scars on his body with a heavy heart. The doctor averred that he had inflicted them upon himself. The sanguinary stains on his arms were intertwined, and because he refused treatment, they had festered. He licked new wounds before the old ones had healed. I brought a doctor, yet he refused to cooperate. Son, you have been creating a ruckus for numerous days. It is sufficient. Forget her. You still possess a family and your infant son. If you collapse, what shall become of me and the child? He looked up with inflamed eyes and regarded the child in my arms. Suddenly, he clutched the child's neck like a madman. It is all on account of him that Wanwan departed from me. I ought not to have sired him. Yes, if he perishes, Wanwan shall return. I slapped him with force. Are you deranged? This is your biological son. Damn it, we all merit death. We are all murderers, ha 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 ha. He was ostensibly smiling, yet his eyes were brimming with sorrow. Wanwan, what must I do to earn your forgiveness? Wanwan. He could not perceive anyone in his eyes at all. My son, he was insane. I could only flee with the child and dared not permit him to set eyes on the child thereafter. However, that transpired to be the last time I beheld him. That night, my foolish son barricaded himself in the nuptial chamber with Zhongwan and set it aflame. He was no more, and he and Zhongwan were reduced to ashes. From thenceforth they could never be sundered. I wept until my tears were exhausted. I could not comprehend how a felicitous family could metamorphose into such a state. Who was at fault? End of full text.